People are just meant to be the support structure, the scaffolding that helps the real visionaries touch the sky. And I'm so grateful for my scaffolding. The spotlight was a blinding, chemical white, catching the condensation on Silas's champagne flute as he raised it to the crowd. His smile was a perfect, practiced curve of triumph. I stood in the shadowed wing of the stage, the heavy velvet curtain smelling of dust and decades of ambition, and felt a strange, cold calm settle over me. All I need is his signature, I thought. We met in a late-night typography class at Pratt, two sleep-deprived students arguing over the kerning of Helvetica New. He had this infectious energy, a way of making a mundane project feel like the most important work in the world. Our first real gig was a rebrand for a Brooklyn coffee roaster. We pulled a 48-hour shift in our tiny, shared studio, fueled by cold pizza and a shared Spotify playlist. I remember watching the sun rise over the Manhattan Bridge through the grimy window, the sky turning a soft, bruised purple, and thinking this is it. This is my person. The first red flag was so small, I barely registered it. He presented our initial pitch to a new client and forgot to add my name to the title slide. It was just a simple oversight, he'd said, laughing it off as he fixed the typo. I was the front man, the charmer. I was the engine, the one who lived in Adobe Creative Suite and Figma. It was a partnership that worked, or so I told myself. He protected me from the boring administrative work so I could focus on being brilliant. That's what he always said. Our golden period lasted nearly 2 years. We landed Project Nightingale, a massive user interface overhaul for a tech giant called Viridian Dynamics. For 6 months, that project was my entire world. I designed, coded, and refined over 200 unique interface screens. Silas handled the client. Take them for long lunches at Percy, returning to the studio smelling of expensive wine and success, telling me how much they loved our work. The imbalance grew by degrees. I was pulling the all-nighters, meticulously crafting the interactive prototypes. He was flying to conferences, networking. My contributions were absorbed into his narrative. He started using I more than we in his emails. When I mentioned it, he'd turn it back on me. Zara, you're so sensitive about credit. We're a team. Does it really matter whose name is on the email when the work speaks for itself? He was an artist of gaslighting. The discovery was an accident. I was searching our shared Dropbox for a 1099 tax form one rainy Tuesday in March. I typed Viridian into the search bar, and a folder I'd never seen before popped up, Viridian Solo. My heart hammered against my ribs. Inside was a contract, a revised master services agreement between Viridian Dynamics and a brand new S-Corp and S-Corp with one officer, Silas Thorne. The contract was for $150,000. He had told me the budget was $75,000, and I had just cashed our final split payment of $37,500. For 6 weeks, I said nothing. My grief hardened into a cold, quiet purpose. I became a digital archaeologist, excavating the ruins of our partnership. I hired a digital forensics expert, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Ms. Vance, who helped me pull server logs and verified file histories from our shared systems. The evidence was irrefutable. The original Figma files for Project Nightingale had a creation log showing my user ID as the sole originator of 92% of the core assets. I found the DMs he'd sent to the Viridian product lead, calling me his talented but disorganized assistant. Each new discovery was a fresh betrayal, widening the chasm between the man I thought I knew and the thief sitting across from me at the studio every day. The breaking point came at the ETHA Design Awards. Project Nightingale won Digital Innovator of the Year. Silas walked onto the stage alone. He gave a soaring speech about vision and sacrifice. He didn't say my name, not once. The host holding the sleek silver trophy had to prompt him. And your partner, Zara, she must be thrilled. Silas smiled that brilliant, predatory smile. He leaned into the microphone. Zara is a brilliant technician, a pixel pusher. But vision, strategy, that requires a different kind of mind. That's where I came in. Then he delivered the line about scaffolding, the line that echoed in the sudden, vast silence of my mind. The applause was deafening, but all I could hear was the click of a lock snapping into place. The plan, fully formed and ice gold, unfurled in my head. On the back of the awards program, I noticed the list of corporate sponsors. One of them was the law firm that represented Viridian Dynamics, a very useful detail. My attorney, Mr. Quinlan, was old school, with a corner office overlooking Bryant Park and eyes that missed nothing. He reviewed the evidence I'd compiled, the server logs, the 2 contracts, the sworn affidavit from Ms. Vance detailing the file creation timeline. The case is ironclad, he said, steepling his fingers. Fraud, breach of contract, intellectual property theft, it's a full house. The process was tactile, expensive. Liquidated $15,000 of my savings to put him on retainer. For 3 weeks we worked, building the case file, mapping the strategy. One afternoon, Silas came into the studio while I was printing out an email chain proving he'd lied about the budget. He clapped me on the shoulder, making me jump, still grinding away, good girl. He was so close to seeing the papers fanned out on the printer tray. I managed to cover them with a stack of old design sketches just in time. The close call left me trembling, but more determined than ever. The evidence was a prosecutor's dream. We had 142 timestamped file logs. We had the S-Corp registration, filed 3 months before the project was even complete. We had an ironic, beautiful piece of evidence. The metadata on a photo he'd sent to a design blog, claiming he was working late on the final push for Nightingale, showed the GPS coordinates of a beach resort in Miami. The final piece of the trap was a decoy. We didn't file a lawsuit. We didn't send a threatening letter. Instead, Quinlan sent a single, polite email to the General Counsel of Viridian Dynamics, CCing their CEO and Silas. The subject line was innocuous: urgent clarification regarding Project Nightingale IP ownership. It was a request for a meeting Silas couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. He walked into the trap willingly, believing it was his stage to command. Boardroom at Viridian's headquarters was a sterile glass box on the 40th floor, overlooking a gray, indifferent cityscape. It was me, Quinlan, 2 of Viridian's in-house lawyers, their head of product, and a very confident Silas. He sat back in his chair, radiating smugness. "Silas, thank you for agreeing to this meeting with us," I said, my voice perfectly even. He waved a dismissive hand. "I'm not sure what this is all about." Zara is clearly having some sort of episode, a classic case of creative jealousy. "This is a simple misunderstanding we can clear up." Quinlan said nothing. He simply opened a thick binder and placed it in the center of the polished mahogany table. For the next 10 minutes, he calmly walked them through the first wave of evidence. The file creation logs, the budget discrepancy, the secret S-Corp. Silas's face went from a healthy pink to a blotchy white. He started to stammer about the fluid nature of creative partnerships. Then came the second wave. The killer proof. I slid a single sheet of paper across the table to Viridian's lead counsel. It was the signature page from the Viridian solo contract he had submitted. Next to it, I placed another document, a partnership dissolution form for our old shared LLC, which I'd asked him to sign 2 weeks prior under the guise of tax cleanup. The signatures were identical, pixel for pixel. "My forensics expert confirmed you used a high-resolution scan of my signature on the Viridian contract," I said. "That's forgery." The silence was absolute. The Viridian lawyer slammed the binder shut with a sound like a gunshot. Silas crumbled. He looked at me, his eyes wide with panic, the bravado stripped away, leaving a pathetic, desperate man. "Zara, please, don't do this. We built this together. Think of everything we had." I met his gaze, my own calm and unreadable. I replied. "I'm thinking of the scaffolding." The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Viridian terminated his contract that day, invoking the fraud clause, and announced their own internal investigation. ETHA Design Awards Committee publicly revoked his Innovator of the Year prize, citing gross misrepresentation of creative ownership. The design blogs that had lionized him a month before were now running breathless articles on the Nightingale scandal. To avoid a public, protracted lawsuit, Silas agreed to a settlement. I received my full 50% of the project fee, the stolen $75,000, plus an additional $50,000 in damages. Had to sell his prized condo to pay it. 6 months later, a former colleague sent me a screenshot from LinkedIn. It was a photo of Silas, looking tired and diminished, working at a small, no-name ad agency in New Jersey. In the photo, he was carrying a tray of coffee for a group of interns. I used the settlement money to start my own studio. It's a small, sun-drenched loft in Dumbo with a view of the water. I have 3 of my own clients now, and a rescue dog named Pixel who sleeps at my feet while I work. The peace is more valuable than the money. I learned that trust isn't an abstract emotion, it's a contract, and contracts need to be verified. My new studio's tagline is simple, printed on the homepage of my website. Visionary design, built on a solid foundation. Some people are just meant to be the support structure, and I finally learned how to be my own.